New at 10, NASA will complete its nearly month-long Artemis 1 test flight this weekend. One of the people who literally put his signature on the SLS rocket is Chief Engineer Dr. John Blevins. His team at Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville are the rocket scientists who made it fly. I sat down for an exclusive interview with Dr. Blevins to talk about the launch and the events, good and bad, leading up to it. He is analytical, soft-spoken, and very much in control. But in many ways, the SLS is a giant leap of faith for him and sees divine inspiration in exploring the heavens.
And liftoff of Artemis 1.
And I looked out the window and all I could see is light. And then I saw the vehicle coming up through the windows and it's pretty exciting.
Back to the moon and beyond.
Space Launch System Chief Engineer Dr. John Blevins, the person in charge of building the SLS rocket, allowed himself just those few seconds to glance up from his computer monitors inside the firing room at Kennedy Space Center and watch Artemis 1 finally blast off the launch pad.
Everything after liftoff we had not been through before. Even though we had simulations, it wasn't the same as seeing the light and the vehicle flying through the window.
Far, now 30 seconds into the flight of Artemis 1.
It worked perfectly.
With more than 20 years at NASA, Blevins has dedicated the last 10 years to designing and perfecting the SLS, and he's quick to credit the entire team at NASA and Marshall Space Flight Center.
I didn't write a single line of code, but the software worked. And there was, a lot of engineers that I get to represent. And I'm proud of each and every one of them.
No one can question the results.
A+ on this one. It really did perform. I've been quoted as saying that we hit a mosquito from 100 yards with a new rifle. Yesterday, one of my engineers walked up to me and he corrected me and he grabbed me and he said, "Hey, listen, it was 1,000 yards that we hit that mosquito at."
Blevins credits what he calls learning the machine, extensive pre-launch testing, green runs, and wet dress rehearsals. Learning from and leaning on the lessons from Apollo and shuttle programs. As we've reported, there were some bumps along that path to a perfect launch, namely hurricanes and hydrogen leaks. Blevins was part of the team that made the decision to leave the rocket on the launch pad during what would become Hurricane Nicole.
To the outside public, it looked very stressful, and certainly we didn't want to sit through a hurricane. That wasn't the intent when we rolled out. But once that disturbance got worse, that was the decision that was data-driven, that was the best decision to make.
And in the final minutes before liftoff, the risky move of sending the team's red crew to the launch pad to fix a fuel leak next to the fully fueled rocket.
The results ended up well, and the team did a great job.
Did you get to meet those guys?
I did not. I have not met those guys, but I'd sure like to on my next trip. I'll be going back soon.
Blevins says for all the roar of the world's most powerful rocket that shattered the still of that early November morning, there's another sound that means so much more to him and his team.
But hearing the people cheering, it's great. The nation invested in doing something great. I'm glad the country still does these missions to measure us, to stretch us, to expand upon technology that we currently know to go further. And so I'm glad to be part of that.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
More than 50 years ago, the crew of Apollo 8, reading from the book of Genesis, the story of creation, the heavens and the earth. Blevins is also a man of strong faith and keeps a verse from Proverbs close to his heart.
Buy the truth and do not sell it, though it cost all you have, gain wisdom and understanding. And that day when I got that, I really felt like that was speaking into me that NASA is a place where we gain wisdom and understanding, and that's really valuable. And so I'm glad to be a part of an organization that spends effort to do that for all of mankind.
Blevins says over the last 10 years, NASA had to build the system to build the Space Launch System. Now, building rockets will get a lot more efficient and launches a lot more frequent. In fact, parts for Artemis 2 are already at Kennedy Space Center, and components for missions as far out as Artemis 4 are already in production.